On this episode of the $1 Million Mortgage Experience, Jon Maddux visits luxury real estate agent Christophe Choo at his Zen-like office in Beverly Hills. The two speak about selling multi-million-dollar homes with his iPhone, working with some of the wealthiest families in the world, why you may want to start communicating through videos, and much, much more.
Welcome to the $1 Million Mortgage Experience podcast. Listen in as CEO Jon Maddux of FundLoans reveals tips, secrets, and origination ideas to fill your pipeline with $1 million opportunities.
Welcome to the show. We're here with Christophe. We're in Beverly Hills. This is a great spot. Tell us how you got into the business.
Wow, I was 18 years old when I got my license. At the time, I'd worked many jobs from when I was 12, but at that time I was mostly modeling as a fashion model. Okay. And my wife now of 26 years, we were dating, and she didn't like the fact I would be gone 2, 3, 4 months at a time, modeling, all the pretty girls, the parties. So she said to me, how about getting a more stable job? Well, young and dumb at 18, I didn't really have any ideas. So I said, what do you have in mind? And she said, how about real estate? And my 18-year-old perception of real estate was I could be my own boss, drive a fancy car, show pretty houses, and make a lot of money. I didn't know there was such a thing as escrow, title, inspections, loans, appraisals. I just thought you showed nice. Yeah. I just thought you showed houses and you made money. So I was actually modeling that summer, and I did a home study course, came back, took my license and passed, and started working. Just jumped in and started doing it.
That's great.
I had no knowledge of real estate before that.
Did your career in the past in modeling help you at all in real estate?
I think everything I've done has helped me in real estate. Starting at 12 years old, I worked cleaning apartments. My mom was a hairdresser, so I would clean her clients' apartments. I'd have to get up, and this was on Saturdays, I'd have to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, go with my mom to a beauty shop, help her at the beauty shop, meeting customers, giving them donuts, making them coffee, sweeping the floor, and all the kind of work you have to do. And then I would go clean apartments. So it was hard work, getting up early. My mom always had an amazing work ethic, so that was one. And then I worked at the Hollywood Bowl, I worked valet parking cars, I worked as a cashier at a market, I worked as a waiter in bars and restaurants in France.
Wow.
So I think everything I've done has been an accumulation to help me where I am today, because we are in a people business.
Yep.
Particularly in Beverly Hills, we have a lot of international buyers and a lot of people from all over the world, many different cultures. I may have an Indonesian client in the morning, a local guy in the afternoon, a client from Russia in the evening. So we have to kind of dance and understand cultures and people. So yeah, everything I've done has helped me in real estate for sure.
That's fascinating. Yeah, work ethic is huge.
Yeah,
obviously, and that's shown how you've
work ethic is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, you do listings, you help buyers as well. Let's talk about the different types of homes that you list and you show. I mean, you said you have all kinds of clients from foreign national to to locals to, I'm sure, celebrities and the whole gamut. What has been some of the interesting things about the different types of people, whether they're foreign or whether they're local? Does it change at all? Is there any difference in with different type of buyers like that?
That's a really good question, and my day can be extremely diverse. Like yesterday and this morning, for example, I just signed a $440,000 listing.
Right.
Past client of 20-some years, she has a little condo in the valley, so we listed. We treat them all the same. We're all human beings, we're all people, they all deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and have a wonderful experience, regardless of the price range.
Right.
So that, on the other hand, I got a call 2 days ago for a major celebrity couple looking to get a property in LA. So that's a whole different aspect, dealing with business managers and assistants, and I know who they are. I've met them, but I have not talked to them yet about this. But their people handle it all. And then I'm also working on a deal right now, a listing that's in the $58 million range. That, trustees and attorneys and family members and all that dynamic. And then I'm dealing with other clients that are past clients that are looking to buy another house in the $100+ million range. So my day can be from $400,000 condo in Granada Hills, Tarzana, to $100 million buyer that's one of the richest families in the world.
Wow.
So it's a very diverse marketplace that I'm in, which I like.
Yeah.
And it keeps things interesting.
So that's true. Like with dealing with business managers versus just a family, maybe they're a couple. They don't have all the the benefits of having luxury assistants and accountants and all these business managers.
Right.
Do you find it more difficult sometimes, or I wouldn't say more difficult, more work to deal with someone who maybe doesn't have all those amenities or those help, all the additional people that can help them in a transaction? Is it more work for you, or
I think it actually could be the contrary. Okay. I think the more people they have, the more difficult it can be.
Right.
Because if you're dealing with a celebrity or a very, very high net worth individual, yes, at a certain point they're going to make the decision. Now, business people are different than celebrities. Now, business people that own companies and run companies, the men and women, they're business people, so they know how to make quick decisions. They're decisive, and they make the decisions. Right. They may consult with their lawyers or whatever at some point in time, but quite often, a celebrity in particular, their people will come first to preview the house to make sure it's a right fit because they're busy, not that everyone else isn't. Then they'll come and make sure that they like it. Then you've got the business manager coming, the PR manager, maybe their mom or sister and cousin. So quite often with the celebrities, you might be dealing 4 or 5 different times showing that house before they even make an offer.
Interesting.
So whereas with a businessman or a businesswoman or a couple that's in business, they come, they like it, they make a decision, they write an offer. Now then, once the offer is written and accepted, then the lawyers jump in, and there's like the best lawyers, and they hire the best people to make sure everything is taken care of, creating, so the more people they have can make it more challenging.
Right.
Your regular couple that's buying and selling a home, you're dealing directly with them in most cases, so it's direct line of communication. That's usually easier than going through 2 or 3 different people, because again, you communicate with the assistant or the business manager. You don't know what that translation goes from there to them or 2 parties down.
Sometimes it could be like the telephone game.
Right. So I often try to do a video communication, meaning I will send an email video with what I want to say, and hopefully their people will forward it, but I usually have their email, so I'll send it to them as well. Keep the loop of the attorneys and business managers so that there's no discrepancy of what I said and what they hear.
Interesting. Yeah. So has video changed the way you do business now that you have email and video? I mean, you've been in the business a while.
32 years.
32 years.
Yeah.
And so when did you start doing videos for your clients?
I started doing videos in 2008.
Okay.
So I started 2008, mostly for the point of producing and promoting my properties and listings.
Right.
Promoting I'm not selling a house in LA or a condo or an apartment. I'm selling a lifestyle.
Right.
So I'm here to promote and educate people around the world, since I have a lot of international buyers, as to what that lifestyle is. So videos have definitely helped in building my brand. It's helped in educating people about our marketplace that then become clients because they find my videos. And it now is helping me in communication with those clients, because I use a system called BombBomb to do my email videos for emails. I'm sure you've heard of BombBomb.
Yeah.
And they have their new book called Rehumanize, because look, basically starting about 10, 12 years ago, when I started, there were no computers. We had fax machines and old MLS books. Well, then computers came in, fax machines disappeared, then the cell phones came in, and now we're in a world where everyone lives on their cell phone.
Oh yeah, selfies.
So, and we got to a point 5 or 6 years ago where kind of people lost all personal communication. It all became emails and texts, which is good for efficiency and getting quick answers and responses, but it really loses a tremendous amount of information. Even when I'm getting texts, I might be at a stoplight or walking somewhere and I read a text, and I may be reading it too quickly and I'll miss a word, and then I totally misunderstand the meaning of that text. And then when I see the people, I said, I didn't say that. I read, I didn't read it properly. So I try to now, quick communication, yes, but I try to really communicate via video.
That's cool.
And even if it's texting them a video, I find that it's very, very helpful. And buyers that are around the world, I mean, I've sold many a property directly from videos with the clients out without even seeing the house.
Wow. You just walk through it.
I'll go through the house with my iPhone, I'll do a video or my camera, I record it, I send it to them on a private, they're long videos, so I send it on a private link on YouTube, and they bought houses from sight unseen from videos.
So do you think mortgage mortgage brokers should use that or adopt that if they're comfortable enough. When responding to clients, maybe they're a buyer and just want to send them a quick message. Do you think it'd make sense for them to do a quick video and instead of being? It's really true. We've lost that personal touch.
Yeah.
And often we deal with, as mortgage people, we deal with buyers and borrowers that are not local or are not, we can't sit across a desk like this.
Yeah.
But have you seen a difference in your business when you started making those type of videos?
Absolutely. I think for sure mortgage brokers should do it on many levels, just like I do. Mortgage business, real estate business is basically the same thing. You got a person who wants to buy or sell a house or refinance,
right.
and it's a very stressful situation for them.
Right.
Whenever it comes to money or housing, it's nerve-wracking. I don't care how rich you are, your first house or your 50th house, it's still a stressful experience. So how do we take that away? So for me, I don't like to, sending, particularly for example, a market update, or you're trying to educate a buyer on how mortgage rates work and the differential between there's so many intricacies to loans, right? How do you, first of all, it takes so much time to write an email, and even I type really fast, it takes a lot of time to write an email.
Sure.
So to me, I'd much rather just pop my computer on, I go to my email, push the bomb button, and I do my market updates. I mean, we'll have the data attached to the video,
right.
like all the spreadsheets and all that, but I want them to see my expressions, see my face, my emotions.
Right.
Just like when we're negotiating on a deal, I try to, at a minimum, first of all, try to do a live video chat with them so I can see them when we're talking, what they're thinking and saying. If not, then a phone call. But I try not to do that with text and email. It's just you lose so much in the translation.
It's fascinating how easy it is to misconstrue a text.
It's very easy, very easy. It happens all the time.
It happens so much with people, and I think that's great advice. So
do videos, and particularly in the mortgage space, like I'm trying to do more and more educational videos that help educate sellers on the whole process of buying, negotiating, and what to be prepared for with inspections. Yesterday, I just did one about contingencies because we're just doing another transaction. My sellers have not sold they bought this house 20 years ago, but they haven't sold. Although we've done deals for his friends, part of it, but they haven't sold. So, there've been a lot of questions about what does a contingency really mean? Because there's many different contingencies in a deal, right? You have the inspection, you have the disclosures, you have the title, you have the loan, you have the appraisal, whatever. So I did a video yesterday trying to educate people, and it's going to be helpful to buyers, it'll be helpful to sellers, it'll be helpful to agents as to what that all means. And I talked about the different types of contingencies and what it means when the buyer removes all contingencies, and I can take a sigh of relief and kind of generally know you're probably going to close, although it's never a guarantee. And I talked about how things can still happen and buyers can change their mind, and even if there's no contingencies, they can still cancel the deal, and then sellers think, oh, I'm getting all that deposit money. Well, not necessarily, So I think educating people is really important because you never know what stage someone is in their thinking or process. But if you educate them and you help them and they like you and they trust you, trust comes from giving proper information, they'll want to do business with you. So.
Right, and I think that also that's scalable, right? You can, if you have one client that needs to know that information, you're probably going to have several others.
A lot of clients, yeah.
So you can just forward that same video, or I'm sure you make it personal, so you may not want to forward the same video.
Right.
But maybe there's a portion of that video that you could edit and send it, or use multiple times, right? Just kind of scale.
And they're educational. I have a foreign buyer coming to LA in 2 weeks. We've been communicating online for about a year. Starting about 3 months ago, we started doing live. I said, let's do a live video chat. I got him. He's not paying cash. It's in the $7 million range. But I got him pre-approved with my mortgage broker. And then I said, let's do a live video chat, which we did. I wanted to see him face to face and kind of get to know who he is. We talked about being prepared for the process. I sent him he found me from videos on YouTube. I sent him a couple of videos about the process of buying as a foreign national because he had some questions. And I said, we answered the question. I said, but let me send you the video as to the process, because it's not that different than a local buyer. And I also talked about in that video that it's not an issue when you buy, but when you sell, there's other differences too.
Right.
Foreign investor property taxes and state and federal withholdings and all that kind of stuff, right?
Sure.
And then I also sent him another video about the home inspection process, meaning once you sign a contract, this is what to expect. So he liked that. These are videos I did a year or two ago. Right. I just forwarded them. So at his leisure, he can spend, I think they're both 15, 20-minute videos. He can watch them, educate himself. And I said, send me an email with any further questions you have, which he did with 10 points. So
did he video back to you? Or?
No.
No, just a straight email.
Yeah, straight email. And so I think it's particularly like even 2 weeks ago when the mortgage rates dropped again, or 3 weeks ago, even though I don't have a lot of clients who do mortgages, I did discuss that because it does fuel the perception of the country and people overall, because the market was cooling. End of last year, first part of the year was pretty slow, and then the mortgage rate dropped. And I understand now that two-thirds more refinancing now than there were 3 months ago, right?
Yes, it's a boom.
So it means people are like excited. And I talked about in the video, I said, it's amazing to me that all of a sudden people are so excited to now get a loan when it's a quarter point difference, right? Well, when I started in 1989, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but rates were 17, 18%.
Oh, yeah.
So people's attention span is like this, right? So the young millennials said they have no idea what that even means.
Right.
But, people back in the 80s, and I did a lot of deals, 80s and 90s were paying 16, 17, 18% to buy a house.
Yeah.
And other countries say they're paying that. In Turkey, I think they're paying 20% for mortgages.
Oh, I believe it.
So people, when they're like, rates went up a quarter point, we're not going to buy a house. I'm like, do you realize it's still the lowest rates in 50 years?
Yeah.
You're going to wait till it's, then you're out of the market.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
That's
very good information. One of the ways I found you was I was looking online for luxury properties, right? Even though we talk about, all customers we treat equally, regardless of the loan amount, regardless of the sale price. But the truth is, we all, as humans love to look at luxury real estate, right? Online. Sure. We watch TV shows. There's all these shows online, on TV. What is one of the most memorable transactions or homes that you've sold in the upper range? I know you've sold in the multi-million-dollar range. So, do you have anything that stands out that was like a
God? There've been so many wonderful, and that's one of the things I love best about luxury. I've traveled all around the world many times. I speak many languages. I've made it a point in my life and business to always be around and work with the wealthiest and most interesting people in the world. They don't have to be the richest. A great artist that's cool and interesting is interesting. Yeah. But, people who have money have a lot of opportunities and things that they can do that others can't.
Right.
So I've always done that. So being in a luxury property allows me an opportunity to see great architecture, great art, antiquities, landscape design. So there's a lot of, I'm very visual and I love I was always into those things. So in the regular marketplace, you don't really have that. I think it's $400,000 condo. I love it. I'm happy to sell it, but it's not architecturally significant. It's not a lot of the other bells and whistles that a luxury home will have. So I really, I'm naturally drawn to those high-end properties and I love those and I really pursue those. So that's what you do what you're good at and what naturally works for you. So in terms of the most memorable was a home I sold a while back, and it was at the time $30 million. Today it's probably $55-60 million. Wow. It was in an area called Holmby Hills, which has always been a little known area in Los Angeles between Beverly Hills. Everyone knows Beverly Hills. Yeah. Some people have heard of Bel-Air. But Holmby Hills, not many people know about it. And I think there's only 300 and some homes in this community. Now, recently people know about it because the Playboy Mansion sold there last year for $105 million. Wow. And then a few weeks ago, the most expensive home ever sold in California sold there for $120 million, $117 million for a home. Right. So that house was in Holmby Hills. It was our friend's home, and I listed it. And it was one of the most beautiful homes I'd ever seen up until that point. Beautiful architecture, incredible property, and they had an amazing art antique collection. It was a long listing because in the high-end market, typically I'll take a year or two listing. Because it can take a few years to sell those kinds of properties. We listed it. It was 8-9 months in the market. The owners were moving out of the country, and they called and said, would you and your wife mind living in the house while it's for sale? Because they had this very expensive home. The art and antiques were worth more than the home. Wow. They wanted kind of someone there, and their family member or the brother was going to stay there, but he had 3 kids and a family and a school down. They didn't want to do that. Yeah. So initially I didn't want to, but I did because I knew I would help sell the house living there. So that was really great because once we lived there, then we did some staging with our own furniture. We did a lot of events to promote the house. We did charity events with Rolls-Royce and Robb Report magazine and top jewelers in Beverly Hills and vineyards, and to bring the wealthy of the wealthy in LA to come see the house to potentially buy it. So that was my most memorable experience because it was, to live in a 16,000 square foot, $30 million home with staff and was really nice. So that was my most memorable and fun, probably, of all of those experiences.
That's a cool perk.
Yeah, it was. And we sold it.
That's even better. Yeah.
And I remember the day we were moving out, a day after a big party, and I went back to my home. We have a lovely home.
Was it kind of bittersweet? Did you kind of get used to living there?
We got used to it. Yeah. I mean, it was over an acre property, and I remember in the hot summer days, I'd come home and go in the pool and just to live in a, to enjoy living like your home and that kind of property was really amazing. I know now, before that, I always wanted a house that big. I definitely don't want a house that big.
Interesting.
Because they had 4 full-time gardeners every day, 5 days a week. They had 3 full-time painters that came 5 days a week. They were painters, because they just were very particular, and everything was perfect, like everything was maintained impeccably.
Wow.
So these painters would go around the house all year long, wall to wall to wall, outside and inside, and repaint and touch up everything. All the time. So it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it. I hope to have another one like that.
That's cool.
But going back home to my house that first night, the men's steam shower was about the size of my office. So it was a beautiful all marble slab steam shower, right?
Wow.
When I went back to my house, I did like a regular stall shower.
Yeah.
I felt so claustrophobic in there. But I'm always grateful for what I have, and I was grateful to have that opportunity to live there. So that was fun.
That's great. Now, you mentioned something about not wanting to live in a 16,000 square foot house. Do you think that, I've heard in the news and just following things that there is a trend towards going towards smaller homes?
Yes.
Do you see that in your business as well?
A trend overall to that, yes, I think. People are realizing there's so much, when you own a home of that size and grounds, and there's so much work to be done. And people who own those kind of homes typically will have 4 or 5 homes around the world like that.
Right.
They may have an apartment in New York, a place in LA, maybe something in Hawaii, maybe Europe, but they'll have multiple properties. And these are my friends, and we sit at dinners and lunches, and they talk about when they come to their main residence and they sit down with and most of these people have a house manager, or kind of, in the old days it was called a butler, but nowadays it's more of a house manager who is kind of a butler, but people don't live that formally. So that butler house manager kind of runs that household and
gets
the staff.
The mail, make sure everything's stocked.
But they also, the main one will run the houses for the other houses as well. But they'll tell me, they'll come home after being gone for 3-4 weeks. They'll sit in their office with the house manager with piles this high of folders for each property. Oh, this one needs a new roof. This one, the pipe burst, and this, so there's, the more you have materially, the more you're attached to it, and the more problems happen, and the more it takes away from your peace of mind.
Wow.
So to me, when I was younger, I'm 50 years old now, I wanted more and bigger, and now I'm less and less is better, because
more money, more problems.
Yeah, exactly. And the more things you have, the more insurance you pay, the more things that break, and all that stuff. And it's just, you have to get to a point where you have to kind of just let it go, because you just can't be attached to all that stuff. So yeah, I do see a trend towards smaller. On the other hand, there's a lot of very wealthy people that when they travel, they have 5 or 10 security guards, and they have nannies, and they have massage therapists, they have chefs with them.
Right.
So they'll have 25 people in their entourage with them. So they need big homes.
Right.
And they want the main home to be kind of just the family and the nannies, and then in the guest houses or other structures, they have their security guards and other things. So
that's cool.
So there's kind of the smaller people want smaller things, and then those who still want bigger. Okay. I mean, there's a house being built right now in Bel-Air that's 100,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's huge.
And there will be a buyer for that.
There will be. Yeah. So speaking of Bel-Air in this area, I've seen on Redfin, different websites, you see just the number of listings that are over 5 million, over 10 million, over 20 million. Has there been an overbuilt? Is it overbuilt in this area, or would you say it's kind of along the lines of what's kind of selling? So it's not crazy overbuilt. Some of the investors that we work with, some of the hedge funds, the insurance companies, they look at this area and they go, man, there are a lot of homes in that price range. Yeah. And they get nervous. They maybe don't want to buy a loan, or they look at the value and go, I don't know if that value is really there, based on the supply and demand feature. Yeah. Is that kind of, do you see that also in this area, or do you think that we have enough? Is Los Angeles big enough to absorb that many listings?
I see absolutely LA is big enough to absorb it all. Number one, we have a very diverse economy. I mean, we have the entertainment industry, we have a lot of business. Recently, the last few years with Silicon Beach and Google and all of those big internet companies moving here, that's increasing more people here. LA is LA, it's not getting any bigger. Right. So we've been talking about this. It was what's happening is it's a trend vertical because there's nowhere else to go.
And it's not like new homes are being built, right? They're mainly remodeling or tearing down an older home and making it into this amazing modern.
Right. In some areas, I would say 8 to 9 out of every single home is being torn down and built brand new.
Wow.
And they're selling. I mean, they're tearing down 2,700 square foot homes that were mostly built in the 30s and 40s, maybe early 50s. But that's just not today's lifestyle.
Right.
People don't want that small home. They want bigger homes. They want higher ceilings. They want all sorts of things. So we're seeing a lot of that. I mean, most of the Westside prime neighborhoods, you'll see a lot of new construction. I mean, in some areas, like I said, 8 to 10 homes are being built. Now, some areas 2 years ago, when the market started to change, I could feel it. I would be up in the Hollywood Hills, mostly the Hollywood Hills, and there were so many brand new construction, modern glass box homes.
Right.
And at the time, there were maybe 35 or 40 in the pipeline to be built. They were in the 15 to 25,000 square foot range that were going to be selling for 20 to 35, 40 million. Well, I knew based on the data that there was not going to be enough buyers to absorb that product over the next few years. So for example, right now today, a lot of those houses are still sitting there because there's too much of that particular product in that particular neighborhood. And where they could have sold a couple years ago for 22 or 23 or 25 million, because there's too many of those now and they've all been sitting on the market, they're trading at 20 or under 20. Even some that sold for 23 million a couple years ago are now reselling for 18 or 19 because there's other newer homes.
Right.
So it depends on the area. Where there's other areas where you have a 7,000 foot lot and people pay $2.5 million, buy as a tear down and build new.
Right.
And that's very common. And now the flippers aren't doing that so much. They're kind of out of the game now. They're not really buying the flip. It's owner users.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that have money that have inherited or are inheriting wealth from families, the younger generation, and they're buying properties and building homes for themselves.
That's cool. And are they like a second home, or is it
primary homes?
A primary home.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most of LA is primarily a primary home market.
Right.
But the Beverly Hills area, Bel-Air, Holmby Hills, Hollywood Hills, we tend to have a lot of homeowners that are second, third, fourth, fifth.
Especially international buyers.
Yes,
right?
yes,
that makes sense.
Or U.S. buyers. I mean, a lot of people live in LA, live in New York or Chicago or Canada, but when it gets cold in the winter or too hot in the summer, they want to come to LA.
Right.
Yeah.
We have the best weather.
And that's what happens. Almost everyone at some point in their life, if you have some money, will come to visit LA, right?
Right.
Disneyland, Hollywood, everybody wants to be here.
Yeah.
They come here, they like it, they see the temperate weather, they see that we've got the city, we got downtown, we got the West Side, Beverly Hills, and the best shopping and restaurants and houses. You got the beach 20 minutes away, you've got skiing an hour away, you've got the desert and golfing 2 hours away. You've got everything very close by. Very few places in the country really have such diversity and such nice overall temperate weather.
That's right. I can attest to that. I love the weather here. All right, so you were on HGTV on a show called Selling
LA?
Selling LA. That must have been a cool experience.
It was fun, yes.
Awesome. So negotiations are important, right, in sales and business.
Right.
And when you're a real estate agent, so was some of that drama or was it real negotiations that was on the show?
Oh, so good question. So the show I was on HGTV called Selling LA. Okay. And prior to that, before our show came out, was a show called $1 Million Listing, which I was going to be on first year, first season, first cast member. This is 8 or 9 years ago. And at the last day, after 6 months of screen tests and interviews, we're about to sign the contract. I was pretty excited because that was the first real estate reality TV show of all of them.
Right.
Selling LA was first, then it was New York, then it was Miami, and San Francisco. Yeah. And I was going to be famous, be on TV. I was like, this is great. So I was sitting down with the casting director, the producer, and my wife and I. And we're about to kind of get to the deal with signing the contract, and I said, what do you guys want out of the show? It's not clear to me. And said, we're Bravo, we're a network where we want ratings, we want drama and fights between the agents. And I looked at them, I said, you know what, that's just not for me. So I did not, I've been a pop-up guy on the show, but I've never been a cast member because I just did not want to be in a show, and that's partially scripted and it's manufactured. I didn't want to be on that. So a couple years later, when HGTV contacted me and said we were doing a show called Selling LA, same drill, we sat down and I said, what do you want? I said, well, we're a Midwest network. We want real deals and we want real clients and real deals that actually close. I said, that's great. I'm into that. I said, but the thing is, once we start shooting with a buyer or a seller, I really don't know for sure if that deal is going to actually happen.
Right.
So that was the challenge with our show. So our show was definitely, I used to love watching Selling Land and all those, but I loved watching the drama. Our show didn't have a lot of drama. Our show was really real. Like all the episodes I did, those were real clients, real deals that happened.
Wow.
And it was the real stuff.
Yeah.
So
the TV, they want to show drama.
Hey, the more drama there is, and when you throw a glass of wine in another agent's face, or you slap someone, of course people are like, when you see the scene, oh my God, I got to see, Josh slapping his face. You know.
Right.
I watch it too.
Right.
But that's not what I wanted to be part of.
That's good. Yeah. So, do you think negotiations in real estate aren't that dramatic like the TV's shows portray, or do you think there's some moments in real estate where you get that kind of negotiation drama?
Negotiations can be very dramatic, and
especially on the big ticket.
Yeah, can be very like one of the episodes I did with a client. He bought a $10 million house. He's a partner in a law firm, one of the biggest in the country. They have several offices around the country, and we'd seen the house, and he says, "What is it worth?" I said, "It's worth just over $10 million." They started at $14.5 and they dropped it to $12.9. Week before we saw it. I said, it's worth just over $10 million. I says, what do you think we should offer? I said, we should offer $9.395. He says, nope, I'm going to offer $8.3. I'm like, well, $8.3, that's pretty far away. And
right.
Particularly, they just dropped it $2 million. Nope, that's what I want to do. So in that particular case, we started negotiating at $8.3. It was tough, and he would only come up $100,000 a counteroffer. I think we went back and forth 8, 10, 11 times over a couple-week period. Now, he would respond quickly. And then it was around Thanksgiving time, if I remember correctly, and we were in the low $9 million range at that point, and I said, let's come back. He said, nope, I don't want to counterwrite. And I said, what are you talking about? You love this house. You want this house.
Yeah.
Nope, Thanksgiving's coming up next week. I don't think anyone's going to be buying right now. It was a house that was full of mold. They were going to buy it and gut it down to the shell and rebuild the whole. It was a 12,000 square foot house. They were going to rebuild it, and there weren't a lot of people that wanted to rebuild a $12,000 square foot home. He said, nope, I want them to see that they want to sell more than I want to buy. So we literally stopped for like 2 weeks, and of course for me, it was stressful because I'm like, I want to make a deal, right?
Yeah.
So
and
we
you've been
stopped
working hard.
Yeah. And it was like 10 or 11 counters. And a couple weeks later, I don't know if I called him or he called me, he said, let's put in another offer. We put in another offer, another 8 or 9 times back and forth, and we made the deal, and we closed the deal.
That's cool.
So, but I think with the negotiations, the most important thing is trying to know as much. Well, first of all, typically negotiations in real estate, it's broker to broker. So it's really important to know that broker well, or get to know them well and how they do things. Luckily, I knew this broker for a long time. She had worked in our company. We had a very good relationship. And I always say to the broker, let's you and I together work together. How do your clients think? How do they negotiate? And try to understand each other, understand each other's client, and try to bridge the gap between the two. So I think it's really important to communicate. So often, particularly in multiple offers or any offers, it's amazing to me. I'll get, 4 or 5, 10 offers. Maybe only 1 out of 10 will even bother to call me and talk to me about who the sellers are and why they're selling, which is shocking to me.
And so I think that's why it's so important to have an agent that's not only just very experienced, but also is well known and has a vast network in the real estate business. Because if you know another agent and they're submitting an offer, there's a different dynamic there, right?
Yeah.
Than versus a new agent that you've never worked with.
Absolutely.
You have I would say like a reputation to where other agents know you can get the deal done, and that you've had that experience in the business to really make a difference. So I think that's a great point about negotiations and how important that is. And it's not just drama on TV, right?
As you said, experience and reputation does really matter.
Yeah,
it really
absolutely.
does.
So, we're a show about getting referrals, and we're a show about where do people find high-end borrowers, buyers. Where do you get your referrals from, or where does your business come from?
Sphere of influence plan. So my business, and it evolves over years. So today, most of my business comes from direct referrals from either real estate brokers I know, or my personal sphere of influence or past clients.
Okay.
Now, I'm a national, international speaker. I go all around the country and the world speaking at different conferences. So I'm lucky I built that, and I'm able to be in front of, whether it's 500, 1,000, or 10,000 agents at one time where I'm on stage. So I'm luckily in the limelight, and people come to meet with me. I give value to them, meaning I'm helping to educate them. Then they follow me on social media, so they stay in touch, and I stay in touch with them. So I get a lot of referrals from the agent world. I get a lot of referrals from my sphere of influence, people I know personally, or events and parties, and then past clients. So those are the main 3 referral sources. But in today's world, look, people that have money are busy, and people in general are busy, whether you have family or whatever. So having YouTube channels, being on all the social media platforms, being out there providing consistent content about your field is very helpful. So a mortgage person, just like a real estate person, for me, it's real simple. They got to remember 4 things when they see me on social media. My name, Beverly Hills, luxury and real estate. That's it. Right. So for a mortgage broker, your name, you do mortgages, your general area, and whatever else that 4th item is.
Maybe what you do best in mortgage, like your niche or the type of borrowers that you like to work with. Whether it's veterans or whether it's, self-employed entrepreneurs and things like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people do have niches. I don't have a particular niche. But that's a good,
maybe
good
luxury.
Point. Luxury is a niche, yes.
That's cool. So, last question I like to ask all my guests is, in this world and in business, you have successes and failures are often looked at. Sometimes they're looked at bad, but I think when I look at failures, it's more of a stepping stone, or it's another way to get to a yes or to a success.
Right.
Do you have any stories about a failure that you went through that maybe led to something that you appreciate, or kind of your favorite failure?
I'll give my most recent failure that I did a video about it, because I'm trying to provide more, the TV shows, all they see is the flash, the cash, the fancy houses, and you start a show at 9 o'clock at night, and by 10 o'clock at night they've sold a $40 million house and they have $1 million check, right? Well, that's a lot of nonsense. That's not really how things work. So a couple of weeks ago, I've been working on a listing that was in the $60 million range for about a year and a half. Went to multiple meetings with trustees and lawyers for the listing. Was pretty sure I was getting it. And one of the owners lives in Brazil. And that morning, 6:30 in the morning, he texted me and says, we want to talk to you this morning about the listing. So I thought, oh my God. I said, I'm going to get the listing today. I was like, because usually if you're not getting a listing, they just send you an email, right? But he says, I called him up. It was him and one of the trustees. I said, this is great. We're going to finalize the price and the terms. And I'd already shown the house to one of my buyers. And then we're on the phone, and they were asking me these questions, and it just didn't sound right. And I said, have you listed the property? And they said, yes, we did, actually. And I'm like, and I thought to myself, why we just have a 20-minute conversation about the values, what's going on in the marketplace? It just didn't make. So I said, it took a second to breathe, and we ended the conversation nice. I said, and I asked, what price you listed for? They told me a little bit high. What's the length of term of the listing? It was a 5-month listing. I wanted a year. Commission, all little different structures. Right. So. Great, we ended up the call, so I got off the call, I called up my wife, and I'm like, you won't believe it, I didn't get the listing, I can't believe it. So initially, my human nature was like, you know what, it was early in the morning, it was like 9 o'clock, I said, screw the day, I'm just going to take the day off, go home, just decompress. And she's like, no, don't do that. And I was kind of upset, and she's like, send them a thank you note, which I always do. And I was in the mood at that moment, right? And I'm like, I don't even have his address in Brazil. It's always been phone calls, emails, so I don't have his physical address. And the other trustee, I don't have his address. So I said, you're right. She says, thank them for the opportunity. I said, think about it. How many people would love to even just have an opportunity to go even on a listing appointment like that? Right. And he called me out of the blue. I didn't know the guy, the seller. He just called me out of the blue. He'd seen me online. He liked me, and he called me. And so I said, you're right. And I know in this market today, quite often a listing will be on the market 4 or 5 times with different brokers before it ultimately sells. So I know in this market, I would much rather be the second, third, or fourth broker than the first. Because I've been the first at times, and I didn't get the sale. Even a year later, and some houses can take, in the high end, can cost $100,000, $120,000 out of your pocket to market for a year.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I totally changed my frame of mind. I let it go. I did 2 videos to them, and I emailed them thanking them for the opportunity. I said I was honestly a little bit disappointed. I said I'm a human being, but I wish you the best. I'm always here for you if you have any questions. I will certainly try and show it if I have a buyer. I have another buyer that's coming to town I want to show it to. I said I wish you the best of luck. If things don't work out, I'm always here for you. And I thanked them. I said I really appreciate the opportunity. So if nothing else, I was able to get it out of my head and release my anxiety and stress about it and let it go. So the faster you let go of disappointments and problems and things that happen that aren't the way you want and learn the lesson, the better off you are. Because when that door closes, a bigger, better one opens.
Absolutely.
And then there's a better opportunity.
And you never know if they might come back.
And it happens.
And
it happens.
They might.
Yeah. One of my good friends for years had their house for sale, and I would buy a lot of jewelry from them for my wife. And every year they would list their house. And I would see the wife every week or two at her jewelry store. And she'd say, we just listed our house. We just listed our house every 6 months or 8 months. And we'd have cocktails and enjoy and visit. And I would always be like, I can't believe this. So finally, it was 4 or 5 years later, their sixth agent down the road. The listing expired, and the husband called me. He said, our listing just expired. I said, look, for this time, let's not just have a phone conversation. Let me just really sit down with you face to face, not as friends, as a professional situation.
Right.
If you want to listen to me, fine. If you don't, it's okay too. So I listed the house for... the last price was, they were at $7,995,000. They dropped it to $6,995,000 3 weeks before the listing expired. And I met with them. They said, what's it worth? I said, $6.5 million. He said, what do you want to list it for? I said, 6.79. No, we just dropped the price, $1 million. She was British. I said, yes, but you can't go back on the market 2 weeks later at the same price.
Right.
It's just not. I said, it's got to be 6,799, because at least people see that you're moving forward.
Right.
So we did that. I built the website called privatecelebritycompound.com. That was the name of the website.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, but it's sold now.
Oh, it's gone.
So long and short of it, 2 weeks later, random 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday, I get a phone call at the office. The phone rings. Pick up the phone. Ladies go, hey, my husband and I saw your property online. We want to come see it. When? Today? When? Like at 10:30, a couple hours, or like an hour later or whatever. I said, who are you? And they told me who it was, and it was a very important business manager for one of the several big celebrities. I said, great. Gave me the name, so I'm Google searching him on the computer while I'm talking. I said, fine. I called up my sellers. I said, guys, you got to get out of the house. Why? What? Older couple. I said, you got to move out. Someone's coming at 10:30. So they moved out. We sold the house the next day for $6.5 million.
Wow.
I represented the buyer and seller and got a full commission. Now, it took 5 years, and every time they didn't list with me, I was upset.
Right.
But
played the long game.
But I still stayed in touch with them. I still stayed friends, still bought jewelry from her, still went to see them, and eventually it happened. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes
No, but
it'll sell by luck to with someone else, but...
More often than not, if you're consistent like that, and you don't, treat things in the with like a short-sighted view, things work out like that. It just happens. So
always do the right thing. Do your best every day. And when disappointments happen, let it go. Be upset for a minute or two, or move on. The successful people are the ones that have disappointments, but the shorter they can keep that disappointment, the more successful they'll be.
Right.
The ones that aren't successful live in that disappointment forever, and that's why they never succeed.
Great advice.
That's true.
I really appreciate you giving us your time here, and thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like and comment. Thanks. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you guys are looking for more content like this, we have a FundLoans YouTube channel where we give away more tips, secrets, and origination ideas. You can also email us at info@fundloans.com. And if you've made it this far, I think it's safe to say you like our content. So please subscribe, share, and send us your scenarios. Let's fund loans together.